Now that Endgame has come to a close, people are starting to turn their attention towards the future, towards Phase 4, or whatever the heck they decide to call it, be it Phase 1 of MCU Part 2, whatever, you know what I mean. And while Disney hasn't officially announced what is coming in the future, we have a pretty good idea of at least a couple films. Black Widow, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Black Panther 2, and the subject of this video, Doctor Strange 2. So let's dive into some theories about what might be coming in the follow-up to quite possibly the most trippy, mind-numbingly awesome-looking MCU film. Let's get right to it. If you are at all like me and spend an absolutely ludicrous amount of time on Twitter, you may have stumbled upon an account of someone going by the name Roger Wardell, which probably isn't his real name, but whatever. Wardell hasn't tweeted much since he started his account in December of 2018. He hasn't even uploaded a banner or a profile pic. Yet he is, as of the recording of this video, rocking a solid 27.6 thousand followers. Probably because his 15 or so tweets are entirely made up of leaks related to Marvel films, many of which have been shown to be incredibly accurate. Like his first two tweets that accurately predicted both that Thor would gain a bit of weight during the film and that Agent Carter's Edwin Jarvis would make an appearance, marking the first time a television character who debuted in a Marvel TV show would ever pop up in a proper MCU film. Still holding out for a deleted scene or something showing the Defenders at the battle at the end of Endgame. I know that it won't happen and I have to just accept that fact and move on, but it still hurts. Though Wardell isn't always completely accurate, as seen when he said that Stan Lee's Endgame cameo was at an auto show. Though he did get the 1970s part right, and that it did wind up involving a car in some way, so there is that. On the whole though, his tweets have been pretty on the spot, which makes us think that whoever is behind the account is someone on the inside. So when he tweeted this out, talking about plans for Doctor Strange 2, it's kinda hard to ignore or write off as just some random dude talking on a site that encourages people to say wildly bonkers and oftentimes inflammatory clickbaity stuff to make their arbitrary numbers grow bigger and bigger. So let's break this tweet down and try to figure out some ideas based upon what the tweet contains, shall we? Okay, first up is the phrase 1980s Boogaloo. Now, the Boogaloo part is a solid reference to the 1984 film Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, which is a pretty common reference to make on the internet, as pretty much every time a film gets a sequel, someone somewhere makes the original film 2 Electric Boogaloo joke. The intriguing part here is the 1980s part. Now, why is this all intriguing, you're probably asking? Well, this might shock you to learn, but the 80s are in fact in the past. Yes, I know that was kind of a stupid joke, but I made it anyways, so moving on. So yeah, if Doctor Strange 2 is to be set in the 80s, that wouldn't be completely out of the question within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as Endgame's plot was basically completely based around the idea of time travel, and Doctor Strange 1 even had an element of time manipulation to it, so it wouldn't be a stretch in terms of rules of the universe. However, there is a slight issue. See, both Doctor Strange and Endgame's time travel shenanigans were made possible by outside MacGuffins, the Time Stone and Pym particles specifically. I can't personally see Strange utilizing Pym's particles anytime soon, and the Time Stone no longer exists. But I do have an explanation for how Strange could get around this, which I'll touch upon in a little bit here. The next part of Wardell's tweet talks about Tilda Swinton returning as the Ancient One, just like she did briefly in Endgame. Now, if the film is indeed a time travel movie, or has a time travel element to it, it would make sense for Strange to reach out to his magical mentor and the former Sorcerer Supreme when the going gets tough for him. So I guess that's not too surprising to hear. Plus, I mean, Tilda Swinton's a pretty amazing actress, so why wouldn't you want to utilize her more? Now, this next part of the tweet is potentially pretty exciting for longtime Doctor Strange comic fans, as it states that both Jericho Drum and Clia will be making their debuts in this film. Now you, dear Screen Rant viewer, may not have any idea who these people are, which is understandable. Not everyone has encyclopedic knowledge of decades of Doctor Strange storylines and comic arcs. Luckily, I'm here to tell you about them because I have a disgusting amount of free time on my hands and the power of research. Let's start with Jericho Drums, since he probably has the most straightforward of the two origins and explanations about who the heck he is. Jericho Drum was a native of Port-au-Prince, Haiti, where he grew up with his brother Daniel. As a young man, Jericho left to go study in the United States. Meanwhile, Daniel became the local Houngan, a sort of voodoo priest. There's a bit more to what Houngans actually are than that, but we don't really have time to deep dive into voodoo culture here, so just know that it's basically that. When Jericho returned to Haiti, he found his brother in a bad state, as he was dying due to a sort of curse placed upon him by a rival. After Daniel inevitably passed, Jericho went on to study under the tutelage of a man named Papa Jumbo, who eventually performed a rite to imbue Jericho with Daniel's spirit, making him one of, if not the, most powerful practitioner of voodoo to have ever lived. Think of him as the voodoo analog for Doctor Strange. In fact, that statement is pretty freaking accurate, as Jericho went on to become a close ally of Strange, along with a member of the Avengers in his own right. Now, the other character that Wardell mentioned is a bit less straightforward, that being good old Clia. You remember the Dark Dimension from the first Doctor Strange film? You know, the place that the big evil bad guy Dormammu was from? Well, as it turns out, that place has a proper governmental body that rules over it, and good old Baby is not the leader. At least he's not really supposed to be. Now, the actual heir to the throne in the comics is a man named Prince Orini, who had an affair with Dormammu's sister, which resulted in the birth of a young girl. Also, a lot of people very confused trying to imagine that man having a sister. And this little girl, in case you weren't paying any attention or just suffering from a serious case of not recognizing obvious connections, was actually Clia. Her mom left her in the care of her father, who kept her true origins a secret from her all her life, including her connections to Dormammu. At one point, she met Doctor Strange when he ventured into the Dark Dimension in order to battle Dormammu. She initially tried to stop him, but then she changed her mind and began to work with him, eventually becoming romantically involved with the Sorcerer Supreme, who she married. She served as a hero for years, including spending time as a member of the Defenders alongside her husband. So okay, that hits all the major points of Wardell's tweet about Doctor Strange 2. Now, how can all of this come together? Well, I have a theory about that, something that I have actually previously talked about on this channel. A little while back, we put out a video about the future of Tony Stark in the MCU, and I proposed an idea for a sequel to Doctor Strange that would see Dormammu returning to his efforts to conquer the world, causing Strange to have to reach out across the multiverse in order to gain the help that he needs in order to stop him. This idea actually totally works with the info we got in Wardell's tweet. First up is the obvious connection of Clia to Dormammu in the Dark Dimension. If Doctor Strange 2 sees Dormammu renege on the deal that he made with Strange at the end of the first film, perhaps after realizing that the Time Stone was no longer around for Strange to use in order to protect Earth as he had done before, that could see Clia coming to our world in order to try to stop him herself, putting her right in line with Strange, with whom she could team up. What about Jericho? How does he factor into this? Well, this is where the theory pulls in the end credits tease from the first film that hinted at Strange's ally turned enemy Mordo hunting down sorcerers. Maybe Jericho comes in contact with Strange while avoiding Mordo, who has moved on to include practitioners of voodoo under his too many sorcerers mission statement. Wait a second there, Screen Rant dude. Wouldn't including Mordo and Dormammu in the film be a bit overloaded? Pulling a Spider-Man 3 up in here? Well, actually, this still works, since Marvel has had quite a bit of experience in the past, including smaller secondary villains, like Sovereign in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, for example. So Mordo could help move the plot along, but things with him could still be left open as Strange turns his attention to Dormammu, leaving a confrontation for a third film. Okay, so Clia and Jericho are introduced so far. That's awesome. What about the Ancient One and that time travel idea? Well, this is where the meat of the theory that I discussed in that other video comes in. I postulate that Strange will find himself overwhelmed by Dormammu and will have to summon other Sorcerer Supremes from across the multiverse to aid him. This could include the likes of Dr. Anthony Stark, as I mentioned in the other vid, along with Loki, Dr. Doom, and a slew of others. And this is where the 1980s Ancient One comes in, as the Quantum Realm is a part of the larger multiverse, and as seen in Doctor Strange very briefly, it is possible for powerful sorcerers to travel there without the need of the time stone or Pym particles. And you want to know the real kicker when it comes to this whole multi-Sorcerer Supreme idea? You know Clia and Jericho? They have both, at some point in the comics and in their own ways, held the title of Sorcerer Supreme. Jericho once took over for Strange for a brief period, and Clia held the title of Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. So even without introducing multi-dimensional versions, with just Strange and the 3 characters mentioned in Wardell's tweet, Doctor Strange 2 could potentially, if it turns out to be true, feature 4 Sorcerer Supremes working together. That is just crazy awesome. And if they do decide to bring in those multiverse hopping magic men and women, a showdown between all of those powerful mystics and one of the most dominating beings in all of existence could make for one heck of a good time. Whew, man, that would be an absolutely amazing sight to see. What do you think about this idea for Doctor Strange 2? What other theories do you have based upon the leaks? Let us know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great videos just like this one. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you at the movies.